Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. Purdue enters the new year in a bit of a different spot in basketball with 4 losses, but how panicked should Purdue fans be? We'll take stock of the Boilermakers before looking at the latest as Barry Odom makes the Purdue program his, plus what to make of the college football playoff debates, and the NCAA takes another L in court. Lots to get you to here to wrap up 2024. If you don't, be sure to subscribe on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. Come join the conversation because there will be lots of it in 2025. Subscribe so that you don't miss an episode through what should be another exciting year of Purdue sports. And always feel free to send in questions either on Twitter or you can email the show boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Since we last spoke, Purdue lost 87-69 against Auburn and won 83-64 over Toledo. I'm not really going to do deep dives of those games. Auburn feels like it was an eternity ago. Toledo was what it was. It was a bye game where we saw more of the same. The reality is, and it has been all season, that this is a pretty good team, but it's not a great team. And there's been a lot of frustration from the fan base that this isn't a great team. And to some degree, I get it. Because in recent years, Purdue has been legitimately great consistently. Since 2017, with the exception of the year where there wasn't a tournament that Purdue was likely going to miss, Purdue has been a 4 seed or better in every NCAA tournament. Purdue's been a 1 seed twice, a 3 seed twice, a 2 seed once, a 4 seed once. Twice, on the 4 seed. It's been really good. It's been very consistently in the top 25, towards the top of that. Purdue has the 5th longest AP poll streak in college basketball. I'll knock on wood there because if Purdue loses this week, it's probably going to fall out. But since Purdue went through its little downturn in the Johnson brothers era and the era where Purdue couldn't shoot before Vince Edwards and company came to town, since Purdue got through that, this has been a really nice program. This has been among the nation's best. And this is still a good team. That there's such panic about a Purdue team that is ranked inside the top 25, that has some pretty good wins, shows you where this program is. It's in a really good spot because most programs, almost everyone in the nation, would kill to be where Purdue is right now. And if you look at the last 5 years' success, everyone in the Big Ten would love to be where Purdue is right now. Nobody, this isn't exact, but I don't think anyone has played more quad 1 games before the new year than Purdue. If someone has, it can't be by many. Purdue's played a really difficult non-conference schedule. You can raise the question as to whether this team needed to play such a tough non-conference schedule, and so be it. You don't know exactly how good your team will be when you put this schedule together. Maybe Purdue thought this team would be a little bit better than it is. Okay, no harm in that. So be it. Matt Painter's going to challenge his team. He certainly did that. You're not out anything, though. Some of the sizable losses have been different than Purdue's used to. You look at that Auburn game where Purdue got blown out. You look at the Marquette game where it never really felt like Purdue would win. You look at the Penn State game where Purdue got blown out. Texas A&M was close-ish, but that's different than what Purdue's used to. For the most part, the last 3 years when Purdue's lost, it's been a close game on the road in Big Ten play where they storm the court. That's kind of been what it's looked like. That's not what this looks like. But even with those sizable losses, you don't have any bad losses to this point. None of them are likely to age poorly. I think Penn State is pretty decent, so I think that's going to be all right. Certainly your Alabama or your Marquette, A&M, and Auburn losses, those are going to stay in quad 1. You have some really good wins over Alabama, Ole Miss, Maryland. I don't know how good Ole Miss is, but it's a decent win to have there. It's not going to hurt you. So when you're here looking at Purdue's resume right now, there's not much to ding Purdue on outside of margin of defeat, which I don't know is really all that accounted for in these calculations. Look, there are limitations to this team, and it's been well documented. And it's been the real talking point after the Toledo game, where Purdue's big three score, I think, 74 of the 83 points. Purdue has three really good players. You have arguably the best point guard in the country. You have a really good post scorer, and you have one of the best three-point shooters in the country. That's a great spot to start. And it's not all that big of a problem to be super reliant on three players to do the bulk of your scoring. I'm looking at you, baby Boilers. That's an era of Purdue basketball that was really good. And, Keaton Grant, Lewis Jackson helped out a bit. Chris Kramer wasn't much of a scorer. That was three guys doing the bulk of the scoring. The front court isn't what Purdue has hoped to this point. Caleb First is limited in what he can provide. I still think he can do some good things for you. You saw it in the Toledo game. He is not going to jump into maybe the role that you dreamed of when he came to Purdue, to be that rim running big guy. Just not going to happen. So be it. But he can do some good things for you defensively. The offensive limitations are there, but he can give you some positives. Wilberg is still really raw, and that's probably getting to the point where you question if that's going to be overcome ever or not. And now there's an injury there. We'll see how that transpires, if he's okay to play on Thursday or not. Trey Kaufman-Renn is really good, but he's not that transcendent talent like Zach Edey or Caleb Swanigan was. Those free throws, that's becoming a problem for Purdue. It's something that I don't know that there's a magic switch to flip to fix it, but that's an issue. But he's been really good. He's putting together a really, really good season. Raleigh Burgess is a true freshman, and you get him against some of these elite opponents, that's a huge ask. There's a reason why he was a serious redshirt candidate this year. Once Daniel Jacobson got hurt, that was off the table. Purdue needed the bodies. But, this front court, factor in Jacobson, and we don't know what that looks like, but this is an area where Purdue seemed to expect to be better at, and it was fair to expect to be better at. I've been crafting this theory for a while that, I don't know that Purdue really knew what it had in Will Berg, because he's going up against Zach Edey every day. And while I wasn't there to see what that looked like, Zach Edey made everyone in the country look bad. So if Will Berg struggled against Zach Edey, well, so does everybody else. He's a guy now who looks like he's very matchup dependent on whether he checks into the game. And with this front court where it is, you saw this issue come up yesterday as well when Purdue played Toledo. Trey Kaufman-Renn cannot be in foul trouble. Purdue, I don't want to say Purdue messed around, because that game was never in jeopardy, but if Trey Kaufman-Renn stays out of foul trouble, that game's never a game. That game's never in doubt. Purdue runs away with that early on. But he gets in foul trouble, so it doesn't go the way Purdue hoped. It slows down a little bit. It's a game into the second half. Trey Kaufman-Renn can't be in foul trouble. Purdue needs him playing every minute he's capable of. Purdue doesn't have a bevy of dynamic playmakers. Braden Smith is. He absolutely is. Fletcher Lawyer can make some plays. He is a better player than he's ever gotten credit for. He is a lights-out shooter. He's a heads-up player when he puts the ball on the floor. It's like the play against Toledo. You see where he gets in there for a foul and throws one up from 17 feet and it goes in. He's just really good at that stuff. It's an uncanny ability. Trey Kaufman-Renn, obviously you got to get him the ball on the block or in the in the short post. He's not going to just take the ball in the perimeter and drive on you. Right now, Miles Colvin, Camden Heide, they are catch and shoot guys only and dunk guys off lobs. That is the extent to where they can help you right now. They've not shown the capability of attacking off the bounce. They've not shown the ability of, having a quick 2-dribble pull-up move to create some space. They're catch and shoot guys right now, and they can run lob plays for you. Jakari Harris is struggling to shoot. He's given Purdue some good minutes with energy. CJ Cox has some juice to him, but he's a freshman. I do think this team has decent energy. I think it's probably been beaten down a little bit by some of these losses, but I would expect Purdue to kind of get off on a heater here soon. We'll talk about it, but all of these things, I think Braden Smith has to be a scorer. That's my biggest takeaway from that Toledo game. Purdue does not have enough guys on the roster that are capable of being scorers for Braden Smith to strictly be a facilitator. They don't have that. He has to go looking for shots. He has to go out hunting baskets, and the assists will come. The ball is in his hands a ton. Purdue's got to find a way to be patient when they get hard hedged, because that's been the the blueprint against Purdue so far. Got to find a way to get around that. But I don't know how many teams in the Big Ten can pull that off the way the SEC teams can. I don't know. All of this, though, these are criticisms of a program that is very used to being very good. This doesn't mean Purdue can't win the Big Ten. It doesn't. As of right now, Ken Pom has Purdue going 12-8 in the Big Ten. The best teams he has going 13-7. Purdue is absolutely in the hunt there, to the point where, look, if you made me pick right now, I might pick Purdue to win the Big Ten. There are some good teams. I think Michigan's really good. I think Maryland's pretty good. I think Ohio State's all right when they've got a full roster. There are some good teams. Illinois is good, but Purdue's right there. You have Mackey Arena. If you can take care of business at home, if the league's not that good, you start doing process of elimination here as to how many road games you really need to steal. I've heard a lot, and I had a request from a listener to talk about this, a longtime friend of mine, about roster construction, because it's something that's come into question here. Purdue is very young this year. Purdue has one senior. Purdue has 4 juniors, I guess, with Heide. And you've got a lot of underclassmen. You've got, 3 freshmen giving you serious minutes right now. Purdue historically has built really well around groups. When you look at Purdue's best teams in recent memory, they've been built around really old groups. That 09-10 team, you have Chris Kramer and Keaton Grant as seniors. You have the Baby Boilers as juniors. I mean, that's a veteran lineup. Those are guys who have started forever. Next year, you have Jawan Johnson, Etuan Moore as seniors, Ryan Smith, Lewis Jackson, juniors. You look at that 4-man senior class, Haas, Thompson, Matthias, Edwards. Carson Edwards is in that group as well. Ryan Klein. That was a really veteran team. And that was a really good team. You look at 2022 when, Purdue had a bit of a frustrating year, but it gets to number 1 for the first time. And it, is 3 plays away from winning the Big Ten outright by a couple games. You have 4 seniors on that team. Last year, you have 4 seniors. Age wins in college basketball. It does. And Purdue has always built to that point where it really makes runs when it has the age. Right now, you see a lot of these teams stacking up on the COVID year players. How many of these teams that Purdue has lost to feel like they're all 22, 23, 24 years old when they show the lineups? There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It may not be the, preferred method of roster construction for some, but I mean, it's within the rules. It's the era we're in. Purdue has not embraced that. Now, the misnomer that Purdue is just abjectly opposed to the portal is not real. That's not real. Purdue's taken portal players. We've gone over why it was a long shot for Purdue to really get super involved in the portal ahead of this year. It's a unique approach to roster construction. And we're still awfully early in this transfer portal NIL era to make sweeping conclusions about what works best. I think Purdue's been a little different in general over the last decade by really prioritizing fit, really prioritizing skill in the evaluation process. When you face these 24-year-olds that are, grown men, that's a pretty good way to counter it. And that may be ending after this year. So I do think as of right now, Purdue knows it has to get in the portal ahead of next season. That can obviously change. I mean, if you see some things in the latter half of this season that are gangbusters, great, you change it. That's fine. I suspect that Purdue will take a good hard look at getting in the portal for next season. Next season's your shot. This season is a chance to do some really good things. It's a chance to win the Big Ten. Next season is your magic bullet, so to speak, where you can really aim for the top. But, I'm curious to see how the rest of the season goes, because I think Purdue's toughest games are already behind it. Purdue's played Alabama. Purdue's played Marquette. Purdue's played Auburn. Purdue's played Texas A&M. Who in the Big Ten is as good as them? Maybe Oregon, maybe Michigan. I mean, you look at KenPom. I know I'm a KenPom guy. These teams are all well above the teams that, Purdue's going to see in the Big Ten. You've got Auburn at 1. You've got Alabama at 8. Marquette at 10. A&M at 14. A lot of Purdue's toughest games are behind it. Big Ten play does start somewhat favorably. You go to Minnesota on Thursday. Yes, I know. House of horrors for Purdue. Minnesota is by far the worst team in the Big Ten, I think. Ben Johnson's got a tough job there, man. That's a really, really tough job. That roster just got completely pillaged by NIL in the transfer portal after last year. That's a rough one. Can you start strong there? You come home and get Northwestern. Not ideal. I mean, ideal in the sense that it's not one of the top teams in the league. Northwestern's really given Purdue some fits in recent years. A lot of that's come with Zach Edey. That may look different now. You don't have the paint crew there. That's one of your spring break games with no students, so it's a little bit different of an atmosphere. But man, if you get off to a 2-0 start, restarting Big Ten play, you've got some winnable games here on the horizon. Towards the end of January, it gets tougher. But here, this start of January, these next 5 games, Purdue's favored in all of them. Doesn't mean they're going to win all of them, but Purdue's going to be favored in all 5. And if you can really start stacking some positive results here, momentum has a funny way of doing things. And if you look back at the history of Purdue basketball, where it has not always had the most talented teams out there, where it's not had the most stacked rosters, man, Purdue's had a lot of January momentum really carry it forward in overtime. And we'll see if that can happen here. Wanted to get into some Q&A here. First question was, when Matt Painter gets the rebounding situation figured out, what is the ceiling for this team? I don't know that the rebounding situation is really something that can get figured out altogether. I think you can probably marginally improve. You can always marginally improve, I think. But this is going to be a weak point for Purdue. It just is. It's not ideal. You don't love it, but rebounding is not going to be this team's strength. I think the ceiling here is about no different than I thought it was at the start of the season. Coming into this year, I did not think Purdue was a Final Four caliber team. I was thinking something like a 4 or 5 seed, get to the second weekend. I hate putting ceilings on teams in the NCAA tournament because I don't think the NCAA tournament is always the best reflection on that. I'll always use NC State as the example. Not going to make the tournament, ready to fire their coach. They go on a miracle run to win the ACC, and then make it to the Final Four. No part of that team had Final Four potential, but it got there. Everyone has Final Four potential, I guess. So, if you can win the Big Ten and you can get to the second weekend, you've had a heck of a season. I don't care what anyone says. That would be remarkable. Over under 1.5 triple doubles for Braden Smith in Big Ten play. I got to go under. I've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and he hasn't done it yet. And that's not a knock on him at all. Please don't take it that way. Triple doubles are really rare in college basketball. I'll say he gets one. Thoughts on Burgess at the 5 with Kaufman-Renn at the 4. Question said rebounding, physicality, spacing for Trey Kaufman-Renn seemed much better. I think in theory, from a spacing perspective, your starting lineup currently is the best for spacing because in theory, you can't help off any of those shooters. They've all proven to be capable shooters. There's some serious baptism by fire that Raleigh Burgess is just going to have to deal with this season. He's got to get more physical. He's got to get a little stronger down low, get a little more comfortable banging in the post. That's going to come. That's going to come for him. There's no reason to view this as a lost player or something. I think your starting lineup is your best offensive lineup. And I think your best defensive lineup has Caleb First out there. I think he's your best complement to Kaufman-Renn, but it's all matchup dependent too. If you get some teams that go really small on Purdue, maybe that changes. Do you see any changes in the starting lineup? Probably not. I don't think the starting lineup is the be-all, end-all. What do you do? Put Caleb First in there. Okay, who do you kick out? Purdue's kind of committed to having Camden Heide be a 4 now. You going to switch that up again? I don't know. I don't know that I see changes imminent, but if you get enough data that one lineup is your best, then sure, maybe. I just don't know that Purdue has that right now. The new year is here, and there's no better time to make sure your insurance coverages are up to date. With inflation causing so much uncertainty in the world, you need to be certain that if worst comes to worst, you are taken care of. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I'm here to help. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com, and we'll protect you from life's everyday risk. Football continues to assemble here under Barry Odom. The staff is all put together. There are transfer portal additions coming in. We've seen Barry Odom bring several high school kids along from UNLV. The word that comes to mind here, and I'm not going to read off all these names. I'm not going to dive into every single coach or transfer. The name that keeps coming back to me is, or the word that keeps coming back to me is familiarity. Almost all, if not all of these staffers have worked with Barry Odom before. He knows what he's getting into here. A lot of these players have played for Barry Odom before. You look at these guys from UNLV. You look at these guys from Arkansas who maybe they didn't play for him, but he sure knows what he's getting in them. That should all be a real positive for Purdue here. That should make for a little more seamless of a transition. In theory, you at least have guys coming in that know what they're walking into. You see it, at quarterback. Malachi Singleton would have been recruited to Arkansas when Odom was there. He certainly knows the guys on staff there because Sam Pittman's still there, coached with all these guys. And then your quarterback coach would have coached E.J. Colson and recruited him to UCF. You should know what you're getting there. And with these two quarterbacks coming in, sure seems like Purdue wants to embrace the quarterback run. By now, everyone that's going to enter the transfer portal has done so. There will certainly be more after spring practice, but for this period, I think the 29th was the deadline. Guys take 48 hours. You may see another name or two, but for the most part, this is Purdue's spring roster. See if it's their summer roster. Remember, players don't have to have a destination yet. Purdue's still going to be adding guys ahead of the start of the semester on January 13th. You're going to see plenty more names come here soon. Interesting note, Ryan Walters is going to reset his career as the defensive coordinator at Washington. Something to watch. How many guys from Purdue follow him there? How many guys enter the portal after the after spring ball to go to Washington? How many guys in the portal now follow him to Washington? That'll tell you something. It'll tell you something both about the dynamics of everything last year, and it'll also tell you something about the talent on that roster. There have been a handful of Purdue players land at nice destinations. Claire, Helt, Thieneman, Brevard, Teron Grant at Texas Tech, I guess. But it signals that Purdue's roster was a little better than 1-11, but by no means was this some 6-6 roster. This roster wasn't great. And you're seeing it with a lot of these guys who hop in the portal and, aren't really going anywhere. Had a question about how many transfer portal players could we really expect. I mean, a lot. This weekend of New Year's, Purdue has several guys lined up to visit. I've lost count to where Purdue is scholarships-wise, but I'd expect plenty more turnover after spring ball. I wouldn't be surprised if over half that roster next year is new to Purdue. Between high school guys, transfers, probably well over that. It's going to be a brand new look, and that's what Purdue needs. All right, this is a topic that is just a passion of mine. The college football playoff came, and it's a never-ending argument about did the wrong teams get in? Should the SEC teams, Bama, Ole Miss, have gotten in, made for more entertaining games? This is a brand new era of college football that is going to take some getting used to. For the first time in the history of college football, teams with virtually no chance of actually winning a national championship are being given the opportunity in the postseason to play for it. In the BCS era, it was the two top teams playing for the title. You had to be truly elite for that to get to that game. I know earlier in the BCS era, it wasn't always a 1 versus 2 situation. It got messy. Before that, it was all the polls. It was the Bowl Alliance. It was weird. BCS really got regimented. Top 2 teams play. In the 4-team playoff era, you saw a couple teams get in that didn't have a snowball's chance in hell. 2021 Cincinnati, 2022 TCU. Those teams weren't going to win a title. But for the most part, everyone was a legitimate title contender that made the 4-team playoff. But now, in the 12-team playoff, half the field doesn't align with what it takes to win a title. Because you have to recruit at a really high level to have a chance. And this is true until it's proven otherwise. It's Bud Elliott over at 24/7 Sports with his blue chip ratio. Ever since he started tracking it, if half or more of your roster isn't former 4 or 5-star recruits, you're not going to win a national title. And you look at it this year, Indiana, SMU, Boise State, Arizona State, and I know the latter two haven't played yet. I can tell you how that's going to go. Maybe they win a first game. They're not making a run. Clemson, the limitations are there. It's a different story at Clemson. But keep in mind, this doesn't mean that these teams didn't deserve to make the playoff based on the current selection criteria. There's auto bids for conference champions, which, frankly, I don't love. But whatever, so be it. That gets 3 teams, Clemson, Boise, Arizona State, in that no one looked at and said, oh, they have a real shot at winning this. SMU and Indiana win a bunch of games against strength of schedules that aren't jumping off the page. But, right now, there has never been an incentive to schedule difficult in college football. So they're doing what they should do. And they're benefiting from it, especially when you're a program that's not super trying to win national titles. This is kind of what the 12-team playoff was for. It was to give more teams a chance, which I never loved, because you are never going to find 12 teams that meet both the criteria of being deserving of making a 12-team field and having the roster to win a national title. Ole Miss has the roster to win the national title. Alabama probably has the roster to win a national title. But what they did on the field did not merit inclusion into the bracket. So what are you trying to get here? Are you trying to get the best teams? Are you trying to get the most deserving? That's always going to be a point of contention in this. It's not going to stop. And you can expand it to 14. You can expand it to 16. It's never going to end. That's not going to go away. There are two classes of programs in the sport. You have those trying to win national championships and those that are just trying to be good and that aren't really trying to recruit at the level, to portal at the level that it takes to win national titles. Look at like Iowa. That's a great program that is really good year in, year out, yet it's never been in the national title picture. You have to recruit and acquire talent at a really high level. There aren't that many programs that do it. You have to want it from the top down. Your school has to be all in on trying to win in football. I don't even think it's a Big Ten versus SEC thing. And I know there's no better rivalry on Twitter than the Big Ten and the SEC. It's not that. It's the programs that are trying to win national titles and the programs that aren't. Because let's face it, Ohio State has a lot more in common with Georgia than it does Rutgers. Alabama has a lot more in common with Oregon than it does Mississippi State. They're in the same conference. They're not playing the same sport. It is about it's the haves and have-nots. It always has been. And this sport is dominated by teams that are pushing to win national titles. And sure, there are more of them in the SEC than the Big Ten. I'll grant you that. But that's what this comes down to. It's the haves versus the have-nots. And that's what it is in college football. Could someone break through someday? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know that that day is going to be this year. And this is going to be a conversation that never ends. But that's what it's always going to come back to. Best versus most deserving is a never-ending conversation. And it's always going to come down to who is truly trying to win this thing from the very top down. I wanted to close here today with just a quick thought. The NCAA got beat in court yet again, taking a loss to Diego Pavia and his attorneys. Purdue, this doesn't really impact Purdue necessarily. I mean, I guess from the looks at it, Jeffrey Emba's trying to use an extra year of eligibility from this. But, the long and short of it, Pavia sued, saying he couldn't benefit from NIL when he was at a junior college. The judge rules in his favor and kind of throws a jab at the NCAA saying, you've never been about making sure education is the priority here as guys can transfer whenever they want. So save me the education thing. Look, the NCAA is on a generational cold streak in these court rulings. It's going to keep happening. We'll see what happens with revenue sharing. We'll see if that solves it. I'm skeptical. There's always kind of been the train of thought that until these guys are formally employees with collective bargaining and all of that this is going to keep taking place. One thing, we're 6 months away now from the beginning of revenue sharing. Keep an eye on these NIL collectives and how they spend. There's a thought out there that they're trying to spend every penny they have before we hit that July 1st point where the NIL deals are supposed to be subject to investigation through a clearinghouse, yada, yada. I'll believe it when I see it. But this could make for a really wild transfer market at the end of the college basketball season. Because if all of these schools are trying to spend every last penny they have before June 30th, it's going to get interesting. We'd see it in basketball. We'd see it in football. We probably already are seeing it now. Going to be interesting to see where that goes. That's all I've got for today, guys. Thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you to those of you who listened and supported throughout the year of 2024. What a roller coaster it was. This is now 5 years down of the podcast. For those of you that have been around for all of it, thank you for bearing with me. It's been a blast. I'm looking forward to what year 6 has in front of us, starting here when we'll be back after Purdue plays Minnesota and Northwestern. See where the Boilermakers are at there. You can follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Always send in questions there or over email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. I will talk to you next year, guys. Happy New Year. Take care. Thank you for listening. We'll talk soon.